Welcome to Dr. DD Durban Online. We're a church family on mission to see Durban change into a place where Jesus reigns. Here is this week's message.
Great. Good morning, everybody. We're in week 3 of our series called Unfiltered, praying through the Psalms. And we are looking at that place where God's glory and our story meets, but on the inside. Our inner world, that world which we don't always speak of, but that's so real to us. And it's our emotional world. And we're going on a journey to see how do we deal as followers of Jesus with our emotions. And how can we see God's glory infused and touch that space. And as you know, we've touched week 1 on the topic of doubt, the emotion of doubt. And then week 2, JT was here last week and he spoke about the emotion of pain, dealing with deep pain. Today, I'm going to talk about fear. And what's interesting is with all emotions, there are basically 1 or 2 ways of dealing with our emotions. As we've said, and I've put that out the whole sermon through. The one way is a religious way. And the religious way is to suppress our emotions. To kind of say, I'm never afraid. I'm like next level. I'm that kind of guy. I can't be scared of anything or can't be scared of nothing. The other way of dealing with it is the secular way, where I'm overwhelmed by my emotions. So the only thing that I behold is that fear, and it takes control over my life. But there is a third way of dealing with our emotions, and it's the gospel third way. Instead of suppressing or giving into and letting it rule us, we process it in front of God's presence through prayer. That's the heart behind this series. So today we're going to read through a psalm where we're going to see quite a formidable man, famous guy. His name's David, in Psalm chapter 3, dealing with some serious fear. So if you have your Bible with me, you can open up at Psalm chapter 3, and I'm going to read from verse 1 onwards. It goes as follows. David speaking. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver me. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and I sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Psalm 3, the word of the Lord. Now, this is a psalm of David. And if you have opened up your Bible, you probably would have seen at the top it says, while David was fleeing from Absalom. So he was praying this psalm in a moment of deep fear. And I want to share a little bit more about that. But before we go in there, just quickly the nature of fear itself. You know, psychology tells us there are 2 kinds of fears many times that we deal with. The one is an instinctive fear. It's like when you see a bear coming your way, you run. When you see your child maybe falling or something bad's happened, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos of the fathers and the dads having that epic saving moments of kid coming down, running, and dad sees it and he jumps and he gets something done that he didn't thought he could ever do. Anybody seen those? Like on the edge, and mom is like, how did you do that? Can you do that again? And dad's like, I'll never be able to do that ever again. That's a moment when fear kicked in, and something that you guard and shock, in essence, let's call it fear for now, but kind of that picture, and it protects what you really love. That's a good fear. That's not a bad thing. It's protecting life. But then there's another kind of fear that psychology speaks of, and it's anxiety. And it talks about a toxic meditation on fear. It's something that leaves you in that space of fear the whole time. I'm filled with anxiety. And the thing about that kind of fear is very powerful. That fear has the capacity to control your every move. You know, that's the truth about fear, is that whatever you fear controls your life. Giving you a few examples. If you fear being poor, making money will be at every single decision that you make. If you fear the rejection of people, you will run after their praises. Every single decision that you make will be to get their praises. Do you see how it controls your decisions and your life? If you fear failure, you will even sacrifice your family on the altar of success. You're willing to do all of those things because whatever you fear controls your life. I think there is a piece of wisdom here when it says the beginning of wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord. So there's something of a reverence and recognizing who He is. So if that fear is misplaced in your life, it ends up in a lot of death. That's the picture. So this morning I want to talk about fear, and the way I want to unpack this psalm is by doing two things. So not 3 points, just 2 points. Lucky for you guys. It's vacation, long weekend. So I'm doing one less. Makes you feel like the two things that I want to do is I want to talk about the background of the psalm. I want to really get you into the story behind where David is actually bowing down and he's praying this prayer. And then I want us to look at the 4 points or the 4 steps David takes as he's busy processing his fear in front of God to get boldness and strength and courage and peace again. So we're going to look at all 4 of those steps. So firstly, we're going to go into the background. But before that, just wanted to make sure that you experience the... I'm so sorry. Look at the faces. Now, I just wanted... Listen, guys, as part of this, we're working with emotions, so I want you to feel it. Okay, you with me? Everybody with me? Okay, great. Like in week 1, everybody was wondering whether I still believe in Jesus after I explained my big doubts. You remember? Okay, great. So now that we know how it feels, let's go back to one day long ago with David and Bathsheba, because this story actually starts with David and Bathsheba. Now, you'll know David was the young man that God raised up to be the new king of Israel, and he obviously faced off Goliath, and then he was running for his life for many years because Saul wanted to kill him. There's a brand new series out on Amazon Prime. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. House of David. Whoop, whoop. I have a few guys knowing. So that's cool. It's really nice. It's really diving into that picture, the way we see it and how it would have been experienced. But David then ultimately would become the king of Israel, and he would take over Jerusalem, and he would be a very successful king, uniting Israel, Judah, and all the tribes together. And then we find this moment, this story, where David was supposed to be going out with his men to the battlefield. It was time for battle, and he was supposed to be out there with him. That's actually where the story starts in 2 Samuel. And then it says that one night, as David was supposed to be there, he went down out on the roof, and there he saw a little lady called Bathsheba taking a bath. And seeing that my man David is a man like all of us, and he decided maybe this is a great opportunity. She caught his eye. He invited her over, and before you know it, there is a pregnant lady that is not his wife. David then decides to cover that sin up by inviting her husband Uriah over. Now, if you don't know who Uriah is one of David's mighty men, and he's actually mentioned in the cave where David had the opportunity to take Saul's life. Uriah was the guy who told David, "This is the Lord. He has put Saul into your hand. You must kill him now." So Uriah was one of his mighty men. Uriah was there with him through his toughest times in life. So he invites Uriah over, hoping that he could maybe get Uriah to sleep with his own wife so that he could cover up his sin. And Uriah shows the nobility and the character that David should have showed. He says, "I will not even sleep with my own wife," while all the other guys are in the battlefield. David should be there, but clearly his success has gone to his head now. He's like the king that just delegates and everybody must do the battle. You know, that battle, just quickly saying this, giving some context here, that battle is about expanding and safeguarding and bringing wholeness and peace to the promised land. And David's not busy doing that. He's not busy bringing peace and wholeness into the promised land. He's sitting back home while other guys are fighting that fight. Do you guys get what I'm saying? He's sounding a little bit more like a passive Adam in this story. Any case, back to our story. Uriah says, no ways, I will not sleep with my wife. And then David sends him back with instruction to give to the general that's in charge of the army and to put Uriah in the front and then pull back so that he may be killed. And that's where the story goes, dun, dun, dun. So David covers up his immoral sin by killing one of his own mighty men, his best friends, to try and cover up his bad deeds. Needless to say, you can imagine what the hotline in the palace would be as this comes out. Everybody's whispering. Everybody's spreading rumors. Rumors that might cause for treason, might get them even killed. But everybody's talking about this because here we have a pregnant lady and her husband's dead and it's by the order of the king. You can imagine as this comes out, because the prophet Nathan confronts David. David says, yes, it was me. And then it comes out. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment, the prophet Nathan also speaks about David's family when he confronts David. He confronts David about his wrong that he's done. And then he says, this will be in your family further on in that journey. And then what do we read? We read about some serious bad stuff happening in David's family. One of the next stories that we find in David's family is a story about his son, Amnon. Amnon decides, he's the half-brother of his sister Tamar, and he burns with desire for her. And he so decides that he wants to sleep with her. And then she says no, and he ultimately, in effect, rapes her. Do you see the same picture of sexual immorality? David hears about it. The Bible tells us that he's angry, but he doesn't take any action. His action is like absent. You see, because Amnon is the next in line to the throne. He's David's eldest. He's David's strength. Amnon is not going to lift a finger against him. One side of it. Other side of it, David is dealing with that same shame himself. He also messed up. Look at where his family is. Who is he to speak against? He's angry. Do you guys see? Then one thing interesting happens. Absalom steps up into the scene. Now, Absalom is Tamar's real brother, full brother, not half brother, full brother. And he decides, seeing that no one is doing anything regarding Tamar's situation, which, by the way, she's made it public. She's dressed herself up and she's thrown ash on her head. She's making a public spectacle of this moment and this wrong and this injustice that's been done. My dad is not saying a thing. No one in the family is saying a thing. I'm sitting here and I'm longing for justice. My brother is not even getting ridiculed for what he's done. Sort it out. And there he stands. Absalom decides, okay, well, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. Goes to his sister, comes, stays with me, and he looks after her. All the while, his vengeance grows, and he decides he's plotting murder. Interesting. Doesn't this story sound so familiar? And he murders his own brother, next in line to the throne. Now you can imagine. Can you imagine the talk of the town going on here? He doesn't just do that. He actually then partners with a guy called Ahithophel. I hope I've pronounced it correctly. Ahithophel, tongue twister. It's an older guy. Him and Absalom partners together. And now, interestingly enough, Ahithophel was a very trusted counselor to David. But he was also, some scholars links him as being the grandfather of Bathsheba. So it was actually his grandson-in-law that David killed. So you can imagine. There's a soybrankie. You with me? So he and Absalom plots together to take over David's throne. The way they're going to do it, firstly, they kill the guy that's next in line. Check. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to get some priests and guys together on a high place to anoint Absalom as the future king of Israel. In the meantime, the word has been spreading in Jerusalem about David's moeilijkheid. You get what I'm saying? His shame. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's mentioning it. In fact, Absalom was standing at the city gates talking about how great he is and what's going on. And how David is not even ruling his own family. Can you imagine that? How is he fit to be a king if he cannot even run his own household? So there he goes. Just want to bring you into that world a little bit. The next moment he hears the news. Absalom has been anointed as the future king of Israel. And then he flees for his life. You can see fear on his face, shocked. And he goes back where he was for many years in the days of Saul. He goes back to the desert. Now imagine you're David for a moment with me. Just put yourself in his shoes for a moment. What's the first thing that would come to your mind when you know what you've done wrong and you see here another man being anointed as king, willing to take your throne? God is coming to punish me. This is over. I did what Saul did. I did not listen. I was disobedient. That whole story. This is a clear picture. God is going to deal with me harshly and severely. So he walks out. He's not just filled with fear for people. He's at this stage filled with fear that God has even taken the anointing from him and will remove him. And this will be the end of his life story. This is what it will amount to. And it's in this space that we see David praying. Now, I don't know about you. I've been in places of fear, but I've not been in a place like this. I've been in places that kind of like this. Sometimes like when it comes to wronging before God and fearing that he would still accept me. I think many of us can relate to that. But what's interesting for me with regards to David is that on top of that, he's literally fearing for his life. His own son wants to come and kill him. They're plotting against him. This guy is in a deep, dark space of fear. And it's in that space that David starts processing his fears in front of God. It's in that space that he starts praying. And as we read through this, I just quickly want to read you guys the first two verses that you can just hear what he's saying. Read it again and just hear this. David's saying, Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up now against me, Lord? Do you hear this? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver me. Can you hear the desperate nature of this man's fear? He's absolutely overwhelmed by it. And then in this prayer, we see four things God takes David through to deal with fear. And it starts with verse 3. The first point when we want to deal with our fear is here. It says, but you, Lord, are a shield around me. It does not say you're a shield for me. It does not say you're a shield to me. It says you are a shield around me. And this brings me to my first point. The first thing that we need to do when we step out, when we want to face our fears, is to follow the thread. To face the actual fear head on. That's what he's busy speaking of here. Now, the reason why this is so profound is he speaks of the fact that you're a shield around me, not just for me or not just to me. The shield mentioned and referenced here in Psalm, the commentaries tells us, it's not the classic shield that you would use in hand-on-hand battle. You know, one hand you have a sword in, the other hand you have a small little shield that's quick and easy to maneuver, but you're in hand-on-hand combat, so you take a blow and that guy defends and he takes a blow and you defend and so on. That's not the kind of shield that David's mentioning here. The kind of shield David's mentioning is a big shield. It's one of those Roman shields. It's a shield that literally goes around you. And you would use this shield not in a hand-on-hand combat because it will slow you down like crazy. This is the kind of shield that you use when you enter into, you want to take a stronghold of a specific space. You want to take over that monument of strength that's coming your way, and you can advance slowly but surely, as you can see in that picture there. Okay, quite a powerful picture. So that's the shield that you put on and that you use when you are going into great danger. Not just battle, great danger, big danger. definite threats coming your way. Can you see where David is? So he puts God then on as his shield. Now, what's interesting about this kind of shield, guys, is this shield only protects you as long as you move forward, pushing through all the attacks from the enemy, all of those fiery, darts coming your way. The only way to be staying protected is to move forward. The moment you turn around and you run, what's happening? Your back is fully exposed. That is certain, clear death. Done deal. So the first thing about your fears is you have to continue going forward. And the reason why I said we need to follow the thread is there is this beautiful story that Gordon MacDonald writes. It's a children's fairy tale, and it's called The Princess and the Goblin. I don't know if you've ever heard this story before. But it's about and just by the way, Gordon MacDonald was like C.S. Lewis's influence. He was the guy that influenced C.S. Lewis. So he was, like I said to my wife, he was C.S. Lewis's C.S. Lewis, if you get what I'm saying. Okay? That's Gordon MacDonald. Now, he tells a story about a young princess that stayed in a kingdom with goblins. It's in a mountainous country, and how she was very afraid of the goblins coming her way. And so the one night, she goes up into one of the rooms, I think it was in the attic, and she met her fairy godmother there, a great-great-grandmother, and she tells her, no, everything will be great, and everything will be okay, you don't have to be afraid. And she's like, it was just wonderful meeting her. And she says to her, okay, well, Grandma, how do I know I can negate you whenever I'm afraid of the goblins coming? She says, well, that's easy. And she gives her a ring, and she says, here's a ring. And she ties a little thread to that. And she says, all you need to do whenever you're afraid, you just put this ring underneath your pillow, and you pull the thread that is lacquer nice and tight, and then you put your finger on this thread, and you follow it all the way. And this thread will lead you back to me. And she's like, great, that's wonderful, Grandma. And then Grandma says to her, okay, but do not be surprised if it takes you on a roundabout way. This threat might take you in a way that you didn't expect it might come. So the one night, our little princess, sitting in a room, hears some sounds, think there's goblins coming, and she decides this is the night. She puts her ring underneath the pillow, and she starts following this thread. And then the storyteller tells us, as she comes to the staircase leading up to Grandma's room, instead of going up, the thread just leads her in exactly the opposite direction. She was surprised. Going down, then going out the door, then going all the way to the mountain, going down into one of the mines of the mountain. And she is shocked. She continues to follow because she believes Grandma. Even she had to go through a very narrow passage that she had to push through, and still faithfully following the thread, until she found herself on the inside, in the middle, down in this massive mountain, the thread leading up to a pile of stones and disappearing in the stones. Rock pile. It's at this stage that she thought to herself, oh, how am I going to get through this? It's at that moment when she decides, well, she was firstly bursting out in tears, hopeless, because this thread has led me to this place, and I can't go through. And then she decides, well, at least I still have this thread. I'll just follow it all the way back. And the moment she started following it backwards, the thread disappeared. It was just gone. And in the same way, when you and I, when we start running away from the things that's trying to scare us into obedience to it, that fear will follow you the rest of your life. Do you hear what I'm saying? You will never find the safety that you truly long for. You need to push through that fear. In the story of the princess and the goblin, she actually then decides she conjures up enough hope, because that was like a breaking point for her, and she decides, okay, she's going to try and move one of these stones, and then slowly but surely she discovered, oh, some of these stones she can move, and some here there are hidden passages, and she gets through, which is a beautiful theme that Gordon MacDonald puts on the table for trusting even when you don't understand, and even when you can't see a way, and when everything around you looks like it's going to end. He says, still continue going forward, because the Lord is the shield around you. And just by the way, side note, if you're in a place where God is challenging you to face some of your greatest fears, and you're obedient, You continue forward, but you still feel a few arrows hitting you on the sides. And you're like, hey, no. It's almost like that one when someone preaches and it's, hey, no, pastor, nog pastor, hey, no. You know? I'm just joking about that one. But whenever you feel some hurt and pain there, let me just tell you, those are shields that God is bringing your way. He's protecting you from something far greater that might destroy your life. So that's sometimes how that shield feels. Okay, so that's the first step. David decides God is the shield around him in that moment, and he's gonna face his fear head on. The second thing he needs to do is he relocates his glory. You need to relocate your glory. The first thing in dealing with fear, follow the thread, continue forward. The second thing is relocate your glory. It says there also in verse 3, Lord, you are a shield around me. You are my glory, the one who lifts my head. Now, why do you think David needs to say, you are my glory? Why does he need to make that statement? Well, it's quite simple, because something else was his glory. God was not his glory. He was putting his glory in something totally different. And it started off with him and Bathsheba, when he was like, glorious king. Look how amazing I am in that space. You know, this word glory is the word doxa, hence our name. The glory of God, the doxa of Deo. And this word glory means weight. It literally refers to your sense of significance, your foundation for significance. Question is, where do you put your glory? Where do you put your sense of significance in? What do you put it in? Some of us, we put it in our successes, in our beauty. Some of us put it in our hard work. Some of us put it in our ability to persevere. Look at how hard I can try, and I will never, ever give up. Some of us put it in our family, the family that we came from, or the family that we're trying to build. We're trying to build a glorious name for ourselves. Some of us put in the approval of other people. Then I will glory. So we try and find significance, and here's the truth, in temporary things. And guys, as long as your significance is in something that's temporary, the fear of losing it will haunt you and will overwhelm you. You know, you've built up your life to become the richest man in the world. Or, you know, everything was given to, I pride myself on the fact that I'm a great dad, great husband, and the next moment, that whole mountain comes crashing down. Some of us has been there. And here David says, you know what, if you want to face that, even that level of fear, you need to put your glory, your significance in something eternal, not in something temporary, someone eternal. You put it in Jesus. He is your glory. When I think about this, two things comes to mind. The first one is that this year we're saying it's not my glory, my story. We're saying it's His glory, my story. And as long as your story is connected to something of your own level of glory, I'm a good person, whatever it may be, fear will be able to boss you around because you're going to miss out. But the moment something happens in your life, like what happened to this lady, I was thinking of the woman that was anointing Jesus' feet. What a powerful story. It's in Matthew and Mark. It's also mentioned in Luke and John, but they mention another name. But Matthew and Mark specifically keeps out the name of this woman. It's like the nameless lady. And what I find so significant about her story, she comes and she anoints Jesus' feet, and you know the disciples are not really happy with that, and they're like, whoa, she's wasting, and she shouldn't be doing this. And then Jesus stands up for her and he says, listen here, wherever the gospel is being shared, the story of what this woman did will also be shared. Now, what's really interesting for me about Jesus' statement there is, and especially reading it in that kind of book, in an ancient book, I mean, she's a woman. Let's start there. Living in literally a man's world. I mean, she wasn't even seen as worthy of being a witness in court. She was, because she could give children, she was just a little bit above a cow. That's basically the level and the value of a woman. You don't write stories about them. That's what you do about men. I mean, they're filled with pages of history. Not women. And then on top of that, she doesn't even have a name. I mean, nowadays, what makes you significant? When people can remember your name. I think of the two most prominent ways we see in our culture being it celebrated. Who was the guy, the richest man in the world? Elon Musk. Everybody will remember his name. Trumpy, I mean, hello. He's been voted in now. Everybody will remember his name. And we can name a few movie stars. But the moment I start asking you, okay, so who was the movie star who won the Oscars in 1905? Can anybody remember? Who was the richest man in the world in 1905? Any names? But this lady, her story is still teaching us today. We don't even know her name. Why? Why would her life be so significant? Well, she discovered that her story has meaning. She relocated her glory. She didn't locate it anymore to her achievements and what she's done. She's taken everything that she's had and she's pouring it out and she's saying, this is my glory. This is my significance. As long as my story is connected to Jesus, my life is significant. And no matter what happens, no matter what comes, death, where is your sting? So number one, we need to face our fears. But in that moment, we need to be recognizing, where is our true glory really? What are we truly afraid of? Are you afraid of losing your standing in society? Just using some example. Because that means that needs to be relocated to Jesus. Okay, that's number two. Number three, we need to see the substitute. And I'm going to finish off with the last two quickly. We need to see the substitute. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever messed up and you need to go and speak to Jesus about it, do you feel very confident in telling Jesus that he needs to sort out your enemies and that he is your glory? And that anybody feel like that? Or do you feel more a little bit something like this? I'm ashamed. I'm sorry. I can't believe. I'm trying to get the words together, and the only thing that I'm getting together is to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry the whole time. With me? And you're afraid. And if you're really afraid, like I was when I was a teenager, after doing nonsense in my life, I would go to bed that night and I was like, Jesus, please don't come tonight. Because if you come tonight, I will definitely go to hell. And that's when I did not understand the gospel at all. But do you guys see? So for us to speak to God in the moments of our greatest shame and guilt, fearing that we will be rejected, not just by the people around us, not just by our own family, but by God himself. That's like a cosmic guilt rejection moment. We'll have to substitute our shame and our guilt. And that's the only way it can happen. David gives it to us here in verse 4. He's hinting at it. He says, I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. Where's the holy mountain? Jerusalem. What's on top of that mountain? The tabernacle, where lots of sacrifices are being made. Standing in. You need to see the substitute for your guilt and your shame, or otherwise it will overwhelm you in fear. I mean, what's David doing at this moment? He's actually speaking to God while everyone is telling him God is taking the throne from him because he was an evil king. He was bad. He did something wrong. He is guilty. Can you imagine that? And then he still has the confidence to come in when he recognizes his glory is still with him. It's not on what he's done wrong or right. It's glorious in what Jesus has done. Do you get what I'm saying here? He's significant because God made him. He's not significant because he is a king. Do you hear what I'm saying? Okay. So there we go. You need to relocate your glory and you need to see the substitute that's standing in for you. And that's the picture of Jesus now. Jesus facing the ultimate fear, the fear of God leaving him. Then lastly, and this is quite powerful, here is where things get next level. You need to remember the people. We see this in verse 7 to verse 8, where at the beginning it sounds and it feels like when you read through it, it almost sounds like David is angry, but he's not. He's bold. You know what David's discovering there? He's just saying, arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. So he's crying for God's deliverance in this moment. May your blessing be on your people. What's David thinking of in this moment? Well, he knows that Absalom, at this moment, when he's got his peace back, when he's got his strength and his courage back in this prayer, he knows Absalom is not a good king. He's not going to be a good king. He's going to be a bad king. He's deceiving, clawing his way up into his own glory and authority. And it's at that moment that he starts standing up against this injustice. And he says, may the blessing of God still be on his people. What is he doing? Guys, he's busy loving the people. You know, when you're captured in fear, I don't know if you experienced this before in your life, but I've experienced it so many times. When you're captivated by fear, the only person that you can think of is self. You're worried about self. You can't sleep. You roll around in bed because you're struggling with self. I can't get this thing done. I can't do that. I'm worried. I don't know. Will this change? What are they thinking of me? What are you thinking of me? What will change? Will I lose my job? Will this thing work? You get what I'm saying? And it's 24/7, me. The moment you got your peace back and your authority back, now that you've allocated your glory to the right place where it belongs, you see Jesus stands in for you even in your weakness. That is truth. No matter what you've done, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. The moment you do that, you get the opportunity to do what he called you to do. You get back onto mission. And you start looking at who you can love. You start doing what he does. And then something powerful starts happening in our lives. It reminds me of that scripture that says, perfect love casts out all fear. When you recognize the perfect love of God in your life, and you start replicating that through your life, you start loving. So when you're afraid of your enemy, why don't you start praying blessing and love over him? When you're afraid of what politics shows you in South Africa, why don't you start praying love and blessing over that? Do you hear what I'm saying? And you'll suddenly see an authority coming into your heart that's far bigger than yourself. To get on mission, remember God's mission and go love this world. So those are the 4 things to deal with our fear. Number 1, face it head on. Number 2, reallocate your glory to Jesus. Don't worry about the things you might lose. You have everything when you have him. Lastly, see the substitute. See that Jesus stands in for all of your guilt. You have no condemnation over your life. And lastly, when you have that peace, get back on track and start loving. Loving those guys that does not even deserve it. Then fear goes to bed and it has nothing to say in our lives anymore. Cool. Let's pray.
Thanks for joining us online today. As a family, we would love to meet you in person, so plan a visit to our Dr. Deo Durban campus by going to drdeo.org/Durban.